Welcome back, everybody. Booze, the spooky yet lovable ghosts that haunt the numerous castles and ruins across the Mushroom Kingdom and beyond, have been a challenging adversary since their introduction in Super Mario Bros. 3. These little, sometimes big ghouls give chase should you turn your back on them, and quickly hide themselves should you look back. So, let's have a go at creating our own shy ghosts in Unity. Let's crack on. First, let's discuss the method we're going to use. We want the ghost to track the transform position of the player, and when the player is within a certain range, so long as the player's back is turned, the ghost will give chase. We also want to know whether the player is on the left or the right hand side of the ghost. For that, we will say if the player's position along the x-axis is less than that of the ghost's, then we're on the left-hand side. Likewise, if it's greater, we're on the right. So, let's continue. I've set up a simple scene where the player and the ghost are at opposite ends of the board. In order for our ghost to chase the player, we need to create a ghost controller script. So go ahead, create a ghost controller script, attach it to your ghost, then open it up. For the variables, let's use what we covered in the method for now. We need two floats. First, a move speed for the ghost, and a range, that distance between the ghost and the player, which of course will be determined by the player's transform.position. So we will also need a private transform player. Then let's get that transform in the start method. So player equals GameObject.findGameObject with tag, and in Unity we will tag our player as player, seen here, correct spelling and capitalization, .getComponent, its transform. After that, let's now work on making the ghost chase the player, and we'll do that by creating a new void called chase. Then inside, let's put transform.position, so the ghost's transform.position will equal vector2.moveTowards. We need to get the position of the ghost and then the target position we want to move towards, which of course is the player. So in the brackets, transform.position, the player.position, then move speed multiplied by times.delta time. So we know that our ghost is going to move from its current position towards that of the player's position. Now, let's work on triggering the ghost to chase the player using that float of range. We will do this in the update method using an if statement as follows. If, open up one set of brackets, vector2.distance, then open up a second set, inside the transform.position of the ghost, and of course that target player.position. Then to close out the first set of brackets, less than range. So if the player is within range of the ghost, we want to set the ghost to chase the player in a direction. Then inside we'll create a vector2 called direction, and that direction will equal the difference between the player's.position minus that of the ghost's transform.position. So it will close that distance. However, we also want the ghost to know if the player is on the left and right hand side of them and has their back turned. First, let's focus on the left hand side. So like we discussed in the method, if the player.position.x is less than the transform.position.x of the ghost, then the ghost knows that the player is to its left. Now, how about having the back turned to the ghost? In my project, the player direction is determined by its value on the local scale.x. When I'm moving to the left, that value is -1. When I'm moving to the right, it's 1. You might be using a different method. I know a common method is to flip the sprite on X from the sprite renderer. If that's the case, simply create a reference to the player sprite renderer, and instead of player.localscale.x, you may use something like player.spriterenderer.flipx equals true. Whichever method you use, so long as the player's back is to the ghost, we can then inside punch in our chase method like so. Then all we need to do is copy and paste this if statement and underneath make some changes so it applies to the right hand side. Therefore, the player.position.x will be greater than the transform.position.x of the ghost. And of course, if my back's then turned while I'm on the right, I'm facing to the right, so my local scale.x is 1, or your player.spriterenderer.flipx equals false. And of course, we want to chase to the right. Let's give this a test. So hit save, head back into Unity. Don't forget to assign the appropriate tag to your player, and let's give the ghost a speed and a range. I've gone with 2 and a range of 10. This works out quite comfortably. Hit play, and as we approach the ghost, when our back's turned, so we're out of range here, now we're in range, he'll give chase. Turn back, and he stops. Let's try the other side. He immediately gives chase. However, you'll notice that the ghost sprite isn't very animated. It doesn't flip to face the side the player's on. So let's go ahead and change that. What we're going to do is create an array of sprites and choose what sprite we want the ghost's sprite renderer to render, determined by the action we want. So let's head back into our ghost script. Back at the top of our script, let's create 2 new variables. The first, a sprite renderer called sprite rend, then a public sprite array, aptly called sprite array. We then want to get that sprite renderer component in the start method. So sprite rend equals get component, the sprite renderer. Now let's move into update, where we want the ghost to be looking to the left. As the ghost is already looking left by default, we don't need to flip the sprite along the x-axis, so we'll simply put spriterend.flipx equals false. When we want the sprite to look towards the right, underneath we want to assign that to true. So flip x equals true. So no matter what side the player is on, the ghost will always flip to face the player. In the chase method now, it would be a good idea to assign a different sprite, such as a scary face, when giving chase. So in our array, we will say spriterend.sprite, and which sprite do we want to render? Well, in our array, the sprite listed by an index of 1 will be our scary face. So sprite array, then the index from that array will want to render that sprite. However, we don't always want to be having a scary face. We also want to have like a shy resting face as well. And we will assign this sprite back here because we still want to be facing the direction of the player. So when the player turns to look back at the ghost, we can now cover our face. And underneath our if statement here, let's just type in else, and we want to rend that first listed sprite in our sprite array, which will be that shy face. So the first index in any array is 0. And likewise, we want to do the same underneath. So long as our back's turned, our ghost will chase, put on a scary face. It will always flip to face the direction the player is on. And when the player turns back to look at the ghost will be shy and hide away. Hit save. Let's head back into Unity. And finally, let's go to the sprite array in the ghost controller script. Open it up. We want the size to be 2 sprites, one for the scary face, one for the shy face. Back in the script, as you saw when we're chasing the player, the scary face will be the index of 1, so element 1. So assign our chase face in there. And when we're not chasing and the player's looking at the ghost, element 0, index 0 will be our shy face. So assign that in the appropriate space, like so. So depending on the situation, our sprite renderer will then call upon one of these sprites to render. And to see that in action, hit play. And you should now see that the ghost is a little more animated. There we go. He shies away when we look at him. When we turn our back, he gives chase. Let's check to see if he flips. There we go. So that looks pretty good. That works quite well. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. I appreciate you stopping by and learning game dev with us. Do keep suggestions coming in. We have a growing list of tutorials for the future. I wish you all the best on your projects, and I will see you soon. Take care.